G'day, I'm Ted Jedinak, creator and facilitator of the internationally acclaimed and accredited Fix More Feet workshops, published author and founder and director of the Foot and Leg Centres. I've had a lot of practitioners ask me for advice about improving their orthotic results, and it always makes me think of a turning point in my career. Let me explain. It was back in 1992 when I'd been in private practice for about 10 years. Back then, I had two sides to my business. One was the side of routine work, cutting corns, calluses, and doing all that guzzy stuff with warts and ingrown toenails. The other side of my business was biomechanical, where I cast for orthoses and had my own little lab where I custom made the orthotic devices. At this stage of my career, I was beginning to realise that orthotics weren't the silver bullet I'd been taught to think they were during my university training. I mean, I was getting pretty good results on the whole, but something was kind of niggling at the back of my mind. You know that vague sense of disquiet in the back row of your mind and you just can't quite fathom what it is? And something churned in my gut. It was an unsettled feeling that you get when something's just not quite right. Looking back, I can see that I had my doubts about orthotics. Sure, they certainly had a useful place in my toolkit, no doubt about that. It's just that there were cases springing up here and there that worried me. Like heel pain cases that seemed to get 70–75% better but didn't fully resolve. Or those shin splints that seemed to be okay until the patients really pushed themselves on the netball court. It's like these patients were better but not best. Then there were those patients who would come in with their box of orthotics from previous practitioners asking me for my opinion. I'd usually end up going, oh well, you haven't had a pair of my orthotics. But then there were the patients who'd come in for their 6-month checkup only to tell me that their orthotics didn't seem to be doing the job anymore. So I'd adjust and modify or build up the orthotic prescription to see if that would help. I did a little bit of tinkering, employed some guesswork, and it's probably contributed to the growing feeling of ill-ease in my gut. Then the day came when my fears were realised. Gary came in for his orthotic checkup. He sat down opposite me, looked me straight in the eye and said these 4 words. Your orthotics are crap. Now, Gary was obviously a pretty upfront sort of guy. We tend to be like that here in Australia. We like to call a spade a spade. Gary wasn't being spiteful or vengeful, he was just being rather matter-of-fact, calling it as he saw it. I've got to say though, it didn't hurt any less. Gary went on to complain about the blisters in his arches, and to add salt to the wound he explained that he felt he'd wasted his money on a treatment that was making his feet feel much worse. Oh dear, what had I done? So I reviewed everything I'd done. The orthotic prescription, how Gary's feet were sitting on the orthotics, and Gary was right, the orthotic arch profile was just digging straight into the delicate flesh inside his arches. But the degree of subtalar and mid-tarsal pronation meant that I had to provide aggressive orthotic control, otherwise his feet would just continue to collapse and compensate. What I realised was this: it was my treatment objective to restore the foot posture. This would reduce the amount of muscle compensation that was causing his symptoms. The problem was though, his feet had been compensating for so long that the dorsal connective tissues had adapted to this collapsed position. So when I tried to introduce a supinatory force, meaning supporting or reversing the hyperpronation of the subtalar and mid-tarsal joints through orthotic therapy, the resistance to the supination was greater than the orthotics could overcome. Consequently, Gary's flesh was becoming damaged because the orthotics were just pushing up and the bones were pushing down. So what I'd do in an attempt to solve this problem was grind down the points of irritation to reduce the supinatory forces in the arch. Now, while this helped make the orthotics more tolerable, it didn't really help improve the foot posture. So then I thought, what if we could reduce the resistance to the supination forces from the orthotics? Well, gee, that makes sense. Less resistance would mean foot posture could improve and the orthotics would be more comfortable for Gary to wear. I've got to tell you though, this discovery or realization proved to be a massive BFO. That's a blinding flash of the obvious for the uninitiated. So after a fair bit of experimenting, trialing and a lot of error, I came up with a routine that for the last 20 years has worked just gangbusters. If you implement this exercise I'm about to show you, give it to every patient when you cast them or scan them for custom orthotics, you will go a long way to improving the comfort and compliance of your orthotics right from the outset. The great thing I quickly noticed was that, you know, the advice we usually give our patients when they grizzle about their orthotics not being completely comfortable, you know, we usually tell them something like this. Well, it's going to take a little while to get used to your orthotics. I suggest you persevere over the next 3 weeks and we'll check on your progress there. Well, I was saying this less and less often because the tissues in their feet were already more pliable and flexible before they received their orthotics. So when I dispensed their orthotics, their feet were adapting much more easily. How cool is that? So now we give them this exercise I'm about to show you to all of our orthotic therapy patients at the time of casting or scanning. This means patients can do the exercise until they pick up their orthotics, which is, you know, usually 1 or 2 weeks down the track. So here's the exercise. First, give your patients a tennis ball. Then give them the following instructions. Sitting down, just using the weight of the leg. In other words, don't go grinding the foot into the ball. Gently roll the foot over the ball backwards and forwards for 15 seconds. Then roll the foot in circles through the forefoot, the midfoot, the rear foot for 15 seconds each. Then spend another 15 seconds concentrating on any tender areas. And if they're heavy pronators, get them to spend an extra time in that medial arch area so that they can mobilize the joints between the navicular, medial cuneiform, and the base of the first metatarsals. These are the most common sites of resistance where calluses or blisters form from supinatory orthotic pressure. Repeat this exercise each morning and evening. Now, we recommend our patients have the ball by their bedside, simply sit on the side of the bed, and then get to work. And it becomes a simple, easy habit that's readily available to do. Within 10 to 12 days, this exercise alone will increase the range of motion in all those mobilized joints. It's fantastic. We always tell our patients, you're going to have a ball. Get it? Okay, all right. I reckon about half of our patients continue this exercise even after they've been given their orthotics because it provides such welcome relief for muscle aches and strains. There's no problem with this if they continue to do that. Now, to finish off, I'd better tell you that some patients used to complain about this exercise. They'd be rolling their foot over the ball when all of a sudden the ball would squirt out and roll under the bed. Then they'd have to kind of climb under the bed and get the ball out and it's such a hassle. So here's Ted's tip. Get an old pair of stockings, slide the ball into it, then they can hang on to that end and keep on rolling. If the ball rolls out, it's really easy just to pull it back and carry on. Great tip, huh? Your patients will love you for that one. So go out and buy a bunch of balls from your local $2 shop or your cheap as chips shop and start getting the mobility back into your patient's joints. You'll get better results with your orthotics too. Well, I hope that's been really useful information, something simple but highly effective that you can do in your clinic tomorrow to get better results for your patients. Thanks for watching this video, and please feel free to share it with your colleagues via Facebook or Twitter, or just yell into a can tied up with some string. I'd also love to receive your questions, comments or feedback, so please email me at ted@fixmorefeet.com. or just leave a comment in the space below on this video. Hope you have a bonza day, mate, and until next time, be healthy, wealthy and wise.